Previous two classes we were looking at this book, we were looking at phrasal verbs that we found in the filthy, rotten, corrupt media. And we were going through this book and showing that these phrasal verbs are everywhere. You don't have to look for a long time to find phrasal verbs. You'll find them in every article, and you'll find far more than one, probably 10 or 20. And today we're going to do the grammar book. We're not doing phrasal verb vocabulary today, but we will do some more phrasal verb vocabulary later this month, maybe later this week. Today we're going to look at subject-verb agreement, and it's from my grammar book. If anyone would like to buy a book on grammar, please, you can find this book on Amazon, Grammar in Theory and in Practice. Or if you want a PDF copy, get in touch with me and let me know. PDF copies are £12. Physical paperback is £16 on Amazon. And if you are interested in buying this book, it's £20 for the PDF and it's £20 for the Amazon copy as well. So today it's subject-verb agreement. It's this, and I actually do this this topic in the chapter called verbs, because subject-verb agreement, verbs. Yeah, so here's the chapter verbs, and it's the very first topic, subject-verb agreement, because it's an important topic. And it's the kind of topic that natives make mistakes with all the time. Never think that natives don't make mistakes. We make loads of mistakes. And of course, look around you, look at how people make mistakes in your own native language, and you'll appreciate that native English speakers are also fallible. We also make mistakes. And with subject-verb agreement, the most obvious mistake that comes to mind is this one. There is, and then a plural noun. You hear native speakers do this all the time. They do it all the time, and I find it hard not to do this. In fact, I have to be very careful and watch what I'm saying carefully to make sure that I don't do this. But you'll hear them say something like, there's people in the hallway, yeah, instead of there are people in the hallway. So you will hear people making these very simple mistakes with subject-verb agreement, and they're really common. They're in songs, yeah, and things like that. You hear them all the time. I remember John Lennon saying, imagine there is no countries. It's definitely wrong, yeah, imagine there are no countries. So there is, and a plural noun is the most common mistake with subject-verb agreement. But actually, there are a lot of other tricky things to watch out for, to be careful of with subject-verb agreement. And a lot of the time, if natives just use their instincts can lead them astray. Their instincts can give them the wrong answer, sadly. So let's look at some rules for subject-verb agreement. I go through 6 main rules in this book. Now, I won't tell you what they are. I'll go through some of them today, but please do buy the book if you would like all 6 rules in one place and plenty of exercises to show you that these rules are being obeyed in academic writing. And that's important to notice. I mean, here with the there is and plural noun, you hear it so many times. It's not rare. It's all the time that you hear this. So informally, you can say that. You can say it too, just like natives do, but be aware that it's a mistake. Be aware that you should never write it. If you are going to say it, please don't write it. But look at this first one. A large number of people, I haven't finished the sentence. Now, with these first 2 questions, I'm trying to show you the difference between a number of and the number of, because they are different. A number of means a lot of, plenty of, many of, yeah, a lot of, and a number of. They are synonymous. But the number of means the precise number, the precise quantity. So a large number of people is the same as a lot of people. And a large number of, for that reason, is always plural. Yeah, a large number of is always going to be plural. A large number of people, a large number of cars, a large number of children are coming to the party. Yeah, whatever it is, it's going to be are, it's going to be plural with a number of. Yeah, and you don't have to say large, you could say a number of people are coming. But the number of students, that, okay, I'm going to just put that in brackets at the moment, and there's a good reason why. But the number of students, now do we say are increasing or is increasing? Well, when we say the number, I want you to understand that we are defining a number here. We're talking about a specific number. And a specific number like the number 1 or the number 17 is singular. Yeah, if you say 17 is my lucky number, you don't say 17 are my lucky number, you say 17 is my lucky number. So this is logical. The number of students is increasing, yeah? The number is increasing and not the numbers are, yeah? The number, it's singular, is increasing. Okay, so the number of is singular and a number of is plural. And I think it's just easier to remember it like that. The number of is singular, a number of means a lot of, it's plural. So let's finish this off. I've put this in brackets because it's a relative clause. You're probably really sick and tired of me going on and on about relative clauses. But if you recognise them and you understand that this is just basically a big fat adjective describing students and defining which students, which is why we don't have a comma, this is a defining relative clause. Now that's important information. It already tells us that really this is a pronoun standing in for the word students. Students have access and not has. Yeah, students is plural, so we need a plural verb here. Students that have access. Now this is important. I think a lot of natives will miss this, and I know they do because I've asked them this question very many times. I give them something like this. He is one of the children, and you'll see this in number 6, but he is one of the children. Now, do we say that go or that goes to school on a Sunday? Do we say that go or that goes to school on a Sunday? Who knows the answer? Is anybody watching? Does anybody know the answer? What do we say? He is one of the children that go or that goes to school on a Sunday. Trying to keep an eye on whether anybody's replying. Yeah, I'll just put ... One of the students that go. One of the children that go. Well done, Lolly Lolly. You are absolutely right. Now, I've asked this question to a lot of natives, and I can tell you that about 50% say goes. Yeah? Because they just feel that goes sounds best. Yeah, and I'm sure some of you also do that. You just think, what sounds best? That sounds best, I'll go with goes. But logically, Lolly Lolly is right, it must be go, because who are we talking about here? This is a relative clause describing children, which means that it's children who go to school on a Sunday. It's children go. Children is plural, and this verb must be plural as well. Plural form is go, not goes. Goes is singular. One man goes, two men go. So children that go is correct. And it's you can see what's going on here, yeah? Let me explain. The native speakers, their brain is being confused by this word, one, yeah? And their brain immediately thinks, okay, one goes to school, one child goes to school. But that's not what the sentence is saying. The sentence is saying that many children go to school on a Sunday, and he is one of them. Now, the natives will immediately feel that this definitely must be go if you make this the subject. Yeah, the children that go to school on a Sunday are very happy. Yeah, no natives will say the children that goes to school on a... None of them will say that. They only say it when it's this way round. They don't say it when you get rid of that one. Then suddenly their brain understands it's not tricked, and it understands that its children that go to school on a Sunday are very happy. Okay? So let's come back. You can see already that this subject-verb agreement, it can get really tricky. But I do recommend always thinking, what is the doer and what is the verb? Yeah, if you can locate the doer and the verb, it does make this a lot easier. Okay? So here the doer is the that, which is a pronoun standing in for students, and have is the verb. Okay? Now, two more really tricky ones, neither and either. Neither of them looks really plural, doesn't it? With that them there. Them is a very plural word. They, them. But it's not plural. It's singular. And I want to give you a good reason for believing me. It's singular because when we say neither of them, we really mean neither this one nor that one. And so we're saying neither this one nor that one is. Neither of them is to blame, and not neither of them are to blame. But loads of native speakers will say neither of them are, either of them are. I guarantee it. It's just because they don't study this at school. They're not told that this is the academic way of doing it, this is the right way of doing it, and this is the wrong way of doing it. So most native speakers don't know. But yeah, that's why neither of them is to blame, and is either of the twins coming? Because we mean, is this twin or that twin coming? And that's very singular. Is this one twin or that one twin coming? So even though neither of them and either of them look very plural, really they mean either this one or that one, or neither this one nor that one, so they're singular. Okay? Number 5, every man, woman and child. Now this is tricky. It's tricky for a couple of reasons. It's the and that causes problems here, because most of the time when you see an and, most of the time it's plural. I tell students X and Y is plural, but this is one exception. When you say every, it's singular. Every is the important one here. You mean, when you say every man, I mean, you say everyone is, every man is, every man, woman and child was saved. Yeah, singular here. Singular, even though we've got an and usually means plural. Okay, singular simply because this and, it's not more important than the every. The every is the most important thing, and we mean every single man and every single woman and every single child. So that's singular overall, even though it sounds like we're adding them together. So just remember, if you use every, it's singular, even if you've got an and in the subject. Exactly the same for each. Okay? So each man, woman and child was saved, yeah? Each hotel room was really clean, something like that. It's singular. Okay, it is one of the presents that wrapped in red paper. It is one of the presents that... okay, yeah, this one really is tricky. So it is one of the presents. Now, how many presents were wrapped in red paper here? We're getting lots of different answers here. We're getting was, we're getting are, we're getting were. And yeah, let's put it in present tense. Let's put it in present tense. So it's going to be either is or are. What do you reckon? Now, hopefully you can see that this is a relative clause, because it makes this a lot easier. It really does. We've already done something very similar to this question here. He is one of the children that go to school on a Sunday. And here it is one of the presents that are wrapped. Yeah, presents is plural. We're describing the presents with the pronoun that. So that are is got to be plural here. And you can see how controversial this question is. I've asked this to a lot of people, and a lot of people have given me different answers. It's a tricky sentence, and if you use your instincts, don't blame me when you get it wrong. Try to just use to understand exactly why this must be are. Yeah, ask yourself this: how many presents are wrapped in red paper? One or many? Now, I think you can see that because we've got an S here, and then we're describing the presents wrapped in red paper, it's got to be many. And this is why it's got to be, it is one of the presents that are wrapped in red paper. Yeah, maybe we'll put it like this: it is in. Sounds more natural to me. Maybe you know, we're talking about you've bought some presents for the kids, and you're talking about a new iPhone that you bought for one of them perhaps, and you say the new iPhone is in one of the presents that are wrapped in red paper. Yeah, and not that is. I know the desire. I feel it too. To say is. I feel that desire as well. I feel that instinct that is correct. But my rationality overcomes that instinct and says, no, it's are. This is wrong. Okay? I know why you're saying it. It's because of that number there. That number there is messing up your brain. It's making you think you need is, and it's making you ignore the S on the end of presents. But it's the presents that are wrapped in red paper. And when you put it at the front of the sentence, once again, it becomes really obvious and easy. The presents that are wrapped in red paper are lovely, or the presents that are wrapped in red paper are Philips. Yeah? No one would say the presents that is wrapped in, no one would ever say it. So if you change the order of the sentence, it can help you with a lot of these questions. But understand why. It's basically because this is a relative clause. This is a relative pronoun. This stands in for presents. So it's the presents that are wrapped in red paper. I hope that's clear. Okay, the total cost of all the items. Now, when you've got this noun of noun phrase, and you do very often get it in English, of course, you've got the total cost of all the items. Usually, it's the first part that's the subject of the verb. Usually. The only time when it isn't the first part of the verb is when the only time when it isn't the first part, when this isn't the subject of the verb, the part before the of, the only time is when you have a relative clause. And we've just seen this. When you say he is one of the children, you have got a noun of the noun there. And notice that here, it's the second noun. Excuse me. It's the second noun that's the subject of the verb go. So here it's the second noun, but usually when you've got the total cost of all the items, or the price of cigarettes, or the list of jobs, usually it's the first noun that's the subject of the verb. The only time when it isn't is when you have a relative clause defining the second part of the of phrase. Yeah, it's the only time. But usually it's the first one. So, and this makes sense. When you think about it, are we talking about cost when we say comes to £100 or come to £100? Are we talking about cost, or are we talking about the items? And of course, we're talking about the cost. The cost is £100, not the items. It's the cost of the items, which is £100. And that's why this will be singular, because, yeah, cost is singular. So comes, remember, comes with an S is singular. That might confuse you as well. Make sure you don't get confused by that nouns add an S when they become plural. Verbs remove the S when they become plural. So a plural verb doesn't have an S, yeah? The children go, the people talk, the men sing, yeah, something like that. Okay, so total cost, when you've got noun of noun, usually it's the first noun. The only time when it isn't is when you've got a relative clause, usually starting with a that or a which. So look out for relative clauses. A huge pile of documents. Well, this should be easy now, because is it going to be the documents or the pile that is lying in the corner? Now, of course, it is the documents, but it's a pile of documents. So pile is the main word in that phrase. Another way you can view it, and I actually really like this way, another way you can look at it is that when you say a huge pile of documents, this is a noun phrase, okay? We've talked a lot about noun phrases. This is a noun phrase. And whenever you've got a phrase, you can choose which word is the most important word in that noun phrase. So have a look. Which word do you think is the most important word in that noun phrase? Which word are all the other words describing? And I hope you can see that it's pile. When you think about it, every other word in that expression describes pile. Huge describes the pile. A describes the pile. Of documents describes the pile. So pile is the head word. And if you can find the head word like that, that's another way of understanding that pile is lying in the corner. One pile is lying in the corner. Yeah, so this is singular, and again, it's the first noun before the of, and not the second noun. Okay, the last one, the government. What do we do with words like government? What do we do with collective nouns like family, team, management, government? Well, academic guidelines state that you ought to use singular. And they say that you can use plural, you can, but lean towards singular. It's the best way of doing things. So they recommend that you say the government is, but believe me, you'll hear loads of people saying the government are. And I think in spoken English, it's more common. I really do. I think we think of them all as individual little corrupt politicians, and so we think of them as a group, and so we think of them as a they, as a plural. But really, that you ought to lean towards singular. So let's look at singular. The government is incompetent and it's. Now this is important. You need to focus on your pronouns as well. It's not just subjects and verbs. It's also pronouns that must agree. So here we need an it's without an apostrophe because we're looking at possessive it's. We need it's and not there. But in newspapers and stuff like that, you'll very often see mistakes with this. But we've used singular here. You might see in newspapers the government are, but it's not correct, or it shouldn't be used in that way usually, not in academic writing. So we've got singular here, so we need singular here. You can't say the government is worried about there. You've got to say the government are worried about there, or the government is worried about its. Yeah, is and its, or are and there. Plural and plural, or singular and singular. Be consistent. There's a reason for being consistent, and that's to not get people in a muddle, to not confuse people. Yeah, so be consistent. So is incompetent and its members. Okay, now the members are the subject of this verb. So this is members are corrupt, because it's members that are the subject of this verb. It's not the government. Okay, so I hope I've made that a little bit clearer, but I do go into this in much greater detail in this book. It's not more than about 3 or 4 pages actually in this book, but I still consider it important because it's a mistake that loads of natives make. And it's also something which very few native speakers have been taught. We just very rarely get taught things like grammar at school. So this was a book that I wrote for natives, and for that reason it certainly has to be in there, this theme. And I've noticed that when they're training up new English teachers, one of the things they test them on is, can they do this? And one of the main difficulties that new English teachers have is this. And it's just because they haven't been taught it. I actually feel quite sorry for a lot of them, because if you haven't been taught something, it's no surprise when you can't do it or you don't know it. But it's not rocket science. It can be taught, it can be learned. So please do buy this book if you'd like to know more about subject-verb agreement. We'll carry on using this book, and we're going to do a lot more on phrases and clauses very soon. Probably moving on to adjectives very soon as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate all the support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and if you want to buy the book, please write me an email. It's £12 for PDF, yeah, and only write the email if you want to buy the book. If you don't want to write the book, then you're wasting your time. But please write me an email if you want to buy this book. The PDF is £12. It's full of hyperlinks to make it easy to go to the answers. Yeah, and you just write me an email, I'll send you a payment link, and then you can pay me the £12. I do have some links on PayHip, but I'm not going to put them up because they're trying to steal your money. So send it straight to me, and then that's the best way to do things. Okay, so thanks everybody. See you all.